Hey YouTube, Puff and Snuff here. Ian checking in as always from beautiful Northeast Ohio. Back to Snuff reviews today. Today we are going to jump back into the open source project line of Snuffs. Chris has recently released batch number 4, and that's what we're going to talk about. The tin is just like all the other tins. OSP, the batch number on the bottom. And that's actually not too bad, but it's a shame the graphic doesn't come out clearer on camera because it really is a real slick, classy looking thing. Other than that, the tin, nondescript. It's just a nice, sturdy, screw top metal container. Real quick piece of housekeeping before we jump full on into the review. I noticed today there is an OSP Snuff channel. Chris had mentioned in one of his videos, I think, that he was going to be doing that so that he could separate the OSP content from his personal content. So there's no content yet with the OSP channel. I'm not going to put a link to it because I don't know if that's kind of the final channel he's going to use or what. But if you're curious, search for it. It is out there. So on with the show. This, by the way, is a large tin from OSP. You can now get multiple sizes. If I had come prepared for class, I would have had a medium-sized tin sitting right here, and I could compare them for you. But I am not, so I did not. But be aware that there are multiple sizes, and they are not sold by weight. You're not going to go buy a 10, 25, 50-gram tin. You're going to buy a medium or a large, which is kind of the old mill model that old mill had adopted. So you may kind of be familiar with the idea. Either way, you get quite a lot of snuff packed into these. He packs them. It's not like buying a bag of chips where it's mostly air, right? He packs these things. I have been using this for about a week and a half, and I have barely made a dent, and he really packs that in. So plenty of bang for your buck. While we've got the tin open, take a quick look. The grind may be tricky to see. Actually, there you go. It's a nice silky grind. I think he's going down to 200 micron, which, given the moisture content, to me comes across as a medium fine in the nose. You take a little bit of care with it, but it's not going to fly to the back of your throat if you know, you're not super cautious with it. Let me and as with any artisan snuff, I prefer not to pinch directly from the tin. Artisan snuffs typically don't use a lot of preservatives or anti-mold agents in there, so best to use a clean metal utensil, and I will warm it in my palm just to let all those essential oils kind of open up, get a much fuller aroma out of the thing. Let me start by I don't have the description in front of me, so I'm not going to read through it. It is quite long because on Chris's website, he doesn't just list the description of the sales pitch for the stuff. He gives you the whole method. If you are even remotely interested in the process behind what goes into making this, go check it out. It is 2 minutes worth of really interesting reading. But just to talk about some of the things that he has used in here, this is a primarily Virginia tobacco. Um, he does use Rustica in here, which when I saw Rustica, okay, my first thought was, oh, a lot of nicotine. But as he describes in the method, the way he treated the Virginia tobacco really brings out all of those natural Virginia aromas, which if you're a pipe guy, you know that gets a sweetness, a honey, a darkness to it. But that process also leaches out a lot of the nicotine. So in this case, the Rustica acts to bring the nicotine back to a moderate level rather than push it over the top into the nicotine bomb category. So if you're chasing nicotine, don't see Rustica and think this is what's going to put you there. This is not intended to be, nor is it a particularly high nicotine snuff. Um, as far as adjuncts that he adds in, he uses sage, he uses cacao nibs, he uses lemon. I'm working from memory here, so forgive me. I know he says he uses chamomile and he uses fennel. Vodka is the booze of choice to carry those flavors into the leaf. I think he mentioned using a bit of molasses. For the full story, again, check the link. So from the tin, you get herbs right up front. It's a savory herb profile um, that comes immediately from the tin. You get that sage, you get that fennel. There's no anise in here, but I really do get an anise or anisette aroma, which is probably just my own mental association with fennel. Um, I was kind of surprised to read that he used vodka and not absinthe or even somewhat diluted absinthe to carry any of this, because I do get that anise-like aroma, but alas, there is none. Underneath that, there is a very, very present sweetness. Chris describes it as graham cracker, honey, and dates, um, which I think is fair. I think it's easier to describe this as a nicely aged Virginia tobacco blend, but if you're not a pipe smoker, that means nothing to you. So graham cracker, honey, and dates, that's fair enough description. Uh, but it's not just taking a back seat. It's not like here's all these herbs and then here's some other stuff. Yeah, the first thing you get is that sage, but the whole thing plays real well together out of the tin. And I'm going to go ahead and take this pinch. And I can tell you that the experience in the nose is the same at first as the experience from the tin. Um, the first thing you're going to get is that herbal aroma from this, but it's not over the top. It's not like walking through an herb garden and having that kind of sharp stinging in your face, you know, herbal aroma just overwhelming you at all. It is subdued, and it's subdued enough to where you really do get that good tobacco base, that good graham crackery sweet tobacco base throughout the entire aroma. Um, and it's really, really, really well balanced. I will say right up front when you take that pinch, very easy to take, does not fly back on you, sits right where you want it to, and you get that real nice warm nicotine sting when you first take it in. But beyond that initial sting, the nicotine never really takes you over. This is not gonna make your head spin. It's not gonna really, if you're looking to take a ride on the nicotine train, this is not the one to get you there. So, um, yeah, it's really good. It is one of those where it is very complex, yet you don't really have to go hunting for the aromas. This to me does not really come across as layers of flavor so much as here are a lot of really good aromas mixed together perfectly. Think stew, not soup, I guess, is a way to put it. Oh, it's so nice. When I read the description, and you see things like sage and fennel and the lemon granules and all of these things, these can all be pretty strong, pretty potent aromas. And it would be very easy for any one aroma to be way too dominant and for this thing to fall out of balance. And I kind of thought when I read it that this was going to be the snuff that goes sideways on Chris. This was going to be the one, the first open source snuff where you could say, you know what? Nice try, but it really didn't do it. And it's not that at all. Everything is working. Everyone is playing in the same sandbox very nicely together. The longer it sits in the nose, you do get in time, the herbaceousness fades back just a little bit, and you get more of that sweet honey tobacco base, which is very nice. And I think that's worth talking about too. Actually, someone had kind of asked a question on one of my other videos, and I think my response in text there is appropriate to kind of talk about here. I think that what sets open source and Chris apart from a lot of other snuffs is that the tobacco really, really, really matters. For a lot of snuffs, tobacco is a medium that contains nicotine upon which aromas can be built. Um, Old Mill took that a step further in some ways, where, especially in his food based snuffs, the ones that were meant to mimic desserts or things like that, where the tobacco would be used to mimic certain pastries or breads, and then building other aromas on top of that. Chris goes even a step further. The tobacco is not merely a base. It is not merely a nicotine-containing agent, nor is it used to mimic something else. The tobacco is good, honest tobacco, and the aroma of the tobacco really shines through and is a critical component to the final scent. Um, Without this Virginia being treated the way it is, the rest of the aromas do not work. And you can smell the tobacco leaf. You can smell the way it has been aged, the way it has been handled, and that leaf, that tobacco aroma is as important to the snuff experience as any of the adjuncts that get added. And I think that's important. And I think that's kind of what puts open source in a class of its own, to be totally honest. So the scent permanence is pretty good. I mean, you're going to still get that primary aroma for a good 20 minutes, honestly. And I think that's another thing that's important with an artisan snuff. You pay more for an artisan snuff, so you want each pinch to be a little more luxurious than you might expect from something where you're going to spend a few dollars for a 10-gram tin. You want that aroma to last a little longer. You want it to be a fuller, more complete experience, and you get that. So yes, it costs more per tin, but you get a lot in each tin, and you get a lot out of each pinch you take. I think it makes it more than worth the money. And that's not just Chris. That's a lot of artisan snuffs. That Sir Walter Scott, same way. Old Mill when Chef Daniel was still with us, same thing. Um, yeah, yeah, really good. And I'll tell you, I've noticed even after the scent kind of fades and you don't think it's in there, you'll take a breath like an hour later and get, sage or graham crackers, and it keeps poking up. And it's really nice. Um, Really good permanence on this. The drip, for me, this has been the drippiest of the 4 open source snuffs. Most of it kind of wants to come forward. The bit that does want to go back is very pleasant. The kind of that backdoor aftertaste, which sounds completely inappropriate, but you know what I mean. The back drip, the aftertaste there, very very pleasant. Complements the insufflation, does not take away from it, does not claw, does not sting. So that says to me that at least for my personal body chemistry, the pH on this is right where it needs to be. For me, we're talking sage, lemon, sugar, great tobacco, fennel, all perfectly balanced. Nothing steps out of line. This is a 9 out of 10 from me. I think, honestly, many people will take this and say this is their favorite open source snuff. For me, I am just so in love with batch number 3, and that's because the specific aromas that he used are right in my wheelhouse, and they are aromas that I love so much it would be hard not to like that more than anything else. So this may not be my favorite of the OSPs, but that is more to the credit of a previous batch, not to the discredit of this one. We're coming up on 14 minutes, so this has already bled a lot longer than I really wanted it to. So, as always, please like, subscribe, do all those YouTubey things we're supposed to say. Questions, comments, all that stuff, stick them down there. Check the description if you want the link to the full story behind batch number 4. Other than that, guys, that is all for me. OSP, batch number 4, 9 out of 10, and a damn good snuff. That's all. Take it easy. We'll see you later.